Good afternoon, everyone. Hope all's well. Hope everyone's having an amazing Monday start to the week, an amazing, great week ahead. Let's see how business goes, but I know my week is really packed with live sessions, with conference calls, with meetings as in virtual meetings. So today we have got Paul, who is a property investor, and he advises people on how to increase their property portfolio and bring it to a 7-figure property portfolio. So I would like to know a lot about that. Just waiting for him to join on in a few minutes. Let's see. Hope everyone's okay. Kushita Property, SML Property. Hope you guys are doing good. Yeah, getting to the end of Ramadan. Another 11 days to go. Well, 12, including today. It's not finished yet. So let's see. So yes. Now that I've started doing live sessions with people, I just can't speak on my own when someone's not here, but I try to do as much as I can. Hello, Priyesh. Hope all's well. Just waiting for Paul Hinan to join in. There we go. Hanifin.
Good morning. Good
Hello,
afternoon.
good morning.
How are
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, all well. Can you hear me
Excellent.
well?
Yeah, very good, very good.
How's life, Paul?
So it's not bad, obviously, in lockdown. It's a bit different, but yeah, no
We're
excuses. We're still getting on,
we're
busy on
now
the
we're now
laptop.
into a different phase of lockdown, right? After yesterday, I guess.
Well, that's if you would class it as a different phase.
It's it's
Minor,
it's the phase of confusion.
yeah, minor vague adjustments.
Yeah. Let's see.
Mhm.
So Paul, I have you on here today because you're a property investor and you
Yeah,
advise people on how to bring their property portfolio to a 7-figure property portfolio according to what you have um, advertised on your Instagram profile. And I want to know
yes,
all about it. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of property investors over these times, and the whole point of doing these live sessions is that not only I gain knowledge out of people that are talking to me, but also it's the fact that I can spread this knowledge to other people who are looking to invest in property, maybe for the first time. Possibly they have a portfolio, but they do not have a 7-figure portfolio. So it's all about getting that knowledge and putting it out there to people who can, who pay massively for property investment courses and all that kind of stuff. Right now,
yeah,
it's lockdown. People are at home. There's not much to do, so why not spread the knowledge?
yeah.
That's
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 great.
what
Yeah.
my aim is with all of this. So, coming back to yourself, before I start, if you can just introduce yourself as to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so as you've mentioned, my name's Paul Hanifin,
Yeah.
and I'm a property investor. I've been involved in property only about 5 or 6 years,
Okay.
but I now have businesses in property as well.
Okay.
So running sort of lettings and sort of property sourcing, acquisition companies. It's quite a busy schedule, but like you said, people are on lockdown.
Yep.
It's a good time for people to learn actually, because there's not a
Absolutely.
lot to do. There's more time on people's hands. And that was what started me off in property, was the education side of it.
Okay.
That gave me the sort of confidence
But 6 years ago, we
do
weren't
it.
in lockdown, though.
No, I had to do that alongside my busy life. I didn't have this.
Absolutely.
I didn't have this opportunity to learn at home and no distractions. So
Would
yeah,
you say that people are in a better position right now if they want to go ahead with property investment, even though it's a frozen market?
Yeah, it's a good question. Compared with 6 years ago, I would say they've got a good opportunity during lockdown to learn and sort of take a T-junction in their career. I think that's what I've noticed about lockdown is a lot of people are reflecting on what they do.
So do you think
And
we're at a T-junction right now
I think
where you
people have
can...
got, I think what I meant by that is people have got an opportunity to start a property business now with lockdown that they may not have had before. They've got a chance to reflect from their current job regarding the market, regarding whether people have got a better opportunity in the market. I think that is a big question, how the market is going to be.
Yeah.
That's the million-dollar question at the moment. And I've got my opinions on it.
I'm going to come back to those opinions in a while, but before we get going into today's day and age, I want to know about your life, how things have been. I know on your profile you said from a council estate to a 7-figure portfolio. So I want to know all about that. I want to know the hardships you faced, the downsides, the upsides, all that kind of stuff. So if we can start, I don't know, school, college, university, what did you get up to, how things were for you, and then how did you move on into property?
Yeah, good question. So, the sort of slogan on my Instagram is from council estate to 7-figure portfolio. It's an interesting sort of journey because council estate, you don't own the house. So I was born into a house that my family didn't own. So we didn't even own one house.
Yeah.
And then from that position to build up a portfolio where I'm a landlord of a lot of properties is an interesting one. It's quite a sort of a journey. But regarding how I got there, I mean, I went to school. I actually went to university.
What did you study at university?
I actually studied medicinal chemistry.
No
which
way.
is a bit random. And I always had I was quite able academically.
So you studied medicine, you've got a guitar at the back, and you're doing property.
That's it. I'm confused.
No, that sums up what opportunities can do to a person. Like doing medical and then going right into a business that is completely different. I mean, I studied business studies at university.
Yeah.
And although I'm in property, but I'm still doing property business, right? It's business.
Yeah.
So I'd never really had a change of a massive field that, maybe I was doing medicine or law or, all that kind of stuff. And I came into this, but sorry, go ahead in terms of how was uni? How was doing medicine at university or medical chemistry?
Yeah. My family wanted me to do that as a sort of backup, because I was quite able at it. I got good marks in science and things.
Okay.
So it was quite a natural thing. It wasn't like a well thought out plan. It was just, I'm good at that. Let's just get a qualification in it. It was good. I got a job in it. I got a first class degree, then a job. But at the time, I was a musician as well.
What was that job you were doing, if I may ask?
It was quality control in a sort of drug making factory.
Okay.
Legal drugs.
It's good you specified that.
Yeah. So it just didn't make me tick, really. So I went into music in my 20s. It was like a passion of mine, and I sort of lived on the fly, doing gigs, lived in Spain, playing in bars. And that was sort of the lifestyle that I enjoyed, like just sort of being free. And incidentally, the property thing, I suppose it all came together when I went into property, because the science is like a problem solving, analytical thinking, which comes into play with the property. When you did
medical chemistry, did you have that job in mind, or no? You aspired to be something else, like a chemical engineer or something like that.
That was something that I would probably, I wouldn't say regret, but I didn't do a degree with a job in mind afterwards.
Okay.
It was
just because your parents wanted you to do it, you were good at it, and you thought that. I mean, I remember one of my chemistry experiments when I was at school, and we were supposed to make, I think it was hydrogen gas or nitrogen, something like that. Yeah. And we were to do that experiment in groups. I'm sharing the story because it's a bit funny one, and because it's chemistry, so I thought, why not? and we were doing it in groups, right? So we had the H2SO4, the sulfuric acid, and
Yeah.
we had salt.
Hmm.
And we were supposed to do it in phases. So everyone had their chance, and there was measurements of each that you had to take, so it didn't screw the experiment up.
Yeah, very accurate.
Yeah, and we were four of us, so there were groups of four. So all four of us finished the experiment, and then there was a bit of acid and a tiny bit of salt left, but it was above the measurement that was given to us.
Yeah.
Right? Had we done it according to the measurement, we would have done 5 experiments. Fine. But this was above the measurements that were given. So I decided, being a mischievous one at school, I decided to put the acid in, put the salt in, and the whole lab was on smoke throughout. I mean, it was, I got a bit of knocking for that, but yeah, it was funny at that time.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, you were into, how long did you do that medical job for?
So it was only 6 months. I think I really had too much of a free spirit for that.
Okay.
And then this is sort of where property attracted me in a way. When you're a landlord, you have passive income, or at least you can,
month in, month out.
Yeah, you can have passive income. So you can be not sort of chained to a desk, but still managing a business and receiving income. And that sort of appealed to my nature.
But then the management stresses and the work that comes with it, it takes its. Some people sort of. If you don't have a right accountant or you don't have a right financial advisor, then things can get a bit. And if you don't have the right agent to manage your properties, it can get. You've got a file I'm going on.
I think it's all right now. It's
okay.
It's not a real.
So I mean, I think you can get lost within that.
Yeah, property is hard. I'm not meaning to say that, like, when I mentioned there's no 9 to 5, it's probably more, but
24/7.
It's not. I don't know. There's something about the routine being flexible, which works for me, which I found in music as well.
How long did you do music for in Spain?
So I did music I was only in Spain for 1 season, but I did a lot of tour in England and stuff, and that was like 10 years.
So you were in a proper band.
I was in bands, but the main majority of my career was as a solo artist.
Okay.
Playing weddings, and I did appear on BBC Radio quite a few times. Okay. But it was making a living out of music, which was great.
So am I speaking to a part-time celebrity out here?
Only in my local town.
So yeah, I mean, so music for what, 10 years you did that?
Yeah, that was my main passion, and I still enjoy that now.
I've seen some of your videos on Instagram that you're playing. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. So I had kids, and music was a nighttime profession. And I decided I needed a day job, in other words, to sort of to spend time with the kids.
Okay.
So yeah, I went into property through educational courses, and I suppose at that point, the sort of science and art sort of came
Samuel
together.
Leeds course. It
wasn't Samuel Leeds. No, it was an old company. They're not there anymore. But I've done a few with the different training providers in my time.
How do you find them, and how do you use some of their theories, some of their facts within your property investment side? I mean, did you use that when you invested in your first property?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it did help me. I mean, as I mentioned with the YPN article I did a few months ago, I had sort of people I knew who'd lost money in property, and sort of people and stories you hear. So I was really keen on getting a course under my belt, so that I'd learned, the basics. So it did help me, unless you know somebody or you've got access to somebody. I knew no one who was involved in property, so I was just blind. So I had to get some help. And yeah, it did work for me. The stuff that they taught me did work.
Can I just ask you a question here? How long ago did you start into property? You said 6 years ago, right?
I think it was more or less 5 years and a little bit longer. I actually bought my first property less than 5 years ago, but I started studying like maybe 5.5, 6.
5.5, 6 years ago. Now, you mentioned that you did not know anyone within the industry.
Yeah.
Don't you think, I'm not trying to put you in a corner out here, but I'm just trying to understand that why people choose training courses when there's a massive um, show on social media right now.
Yeah.
Like you can go out there and you can find a financial advisor, you can find a lettings agent within the area that you're buying your property in. You can find a surveyor there, you can find an architect there, you can find an engineer there, you can find so many people on there. But was it the fact that you wanted to know to use your money wisely? Is that why you
Yeah,
took
I
the
think,
course?
well, back then, social media, it wasn't as big as it is now.
Yeah.
But regarding whether people can just find things on social media, that is a route for some people, you know.
Yep.
For me, I think there is something you get from sitting a set of courses and being in a network,
Okay.
and being surrounded by other people in a class, and also, you know,
The
strangely,
positivity, you mean?
yeah, you feel like you're a student. It did something for me anyway.
Okay.
Also, I'm not trying to sort of promote courses, or, you know, each person does their own thing.
Yep.
But another thing for me was, strangely enough, you know, the fact that I'd committed money to courses was a bit of a sort of challenge to myself,
Okay.
to say I'm invested now, so I better
And
go and do
how
it.
much did you pay for those courses?
I've spent a lot of money on education myself over the years,
Okay.
upwards of £20,000 in total.
That
But
is
it was,
that is your medical study also and your
oh no,
property
if you
study.
class the medical stuff, you'd be upwards of 30. You know, that was
okay.
that was the degree is. I've made a better return on investment on the property courses than the
Than
medical.
the study.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think for me it was a bit of a challenge to myself. I've invested now, I have to do it. I actually tried to do it myself for 6 months,
Okay.
without any courses or help.
Okay.
And I wasn't pulling the trigger.
I mean, you were on YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff.
I was going out and trying to view and trying to think I'll buy
Okay.
one myself. I'll use the 20 grand to buy a house instead of doing a course, etc. And I didn't pull the trigger. And I realized it was because I
It
was
was in
invested and I was
It was in
uncertain.
your mindset that okay, all right.
I didn't really know what I was doing, you know.
Okay.
Like I say, people can do courses, they can do private coaching, they could learn on YouTube, whatever works for each person. That's what I did. And I think that the positives are, you know, the financial side of it. I think that I would have made that back in 1 or 2 deals. So that's not in question. The other side of it is, you know, I think it's not for everybody, and you have to be eyes wide open, because some people who sort of just remember courses and things are promotional things, so that they're obviously painting best case scenario all the time.
I mean, for me, I think courses are mostly like, you know, people are, like you mentioned, the trigger. You know, you're kind of, you want to do it, but you just need that, you know, that push, that jump off the cliff. Come on, jump off the cliff. You know, sort of thing. So I think in that sense, if you go to a course, you go to 1, 2, maybe 3 courses and you get that push, fine. But if you go to a course and you're not doing, because I know that a lot of people, they will sit in the classroom, they will listen to it, they will think that, yes, as soon as I get out, I'm going and starting this. But as soon as they get out, they shut that door and it's all over.
Yeah.
Like, it's gone.
Yeah, it doesn't work for everybody, and some people
Exactly.
might actually get the push that they shouldn't get. You know, they might think, right, well, I'm going to buy a house, and they're not ready, and they're not ready to follow through. So it's just an individual thing. And what I did was I sort of held myself to account. You know, after the course, I said, right, well, I've got to buy a house now, and I've got to buy the right one, and I took responsibility myself. You know, I didn't just say, oh, well, the course tutor said this, so I'm going to do that, and if it doesn't work, it's his fault. That would be the wrong way to go, because then you're not really solving your own problem.
And I mean, they don't take any responsibility. It's up to you, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. So you've got to be aware of that.
We're giving you the knowledge. We're giving you the sort of the knowledge to sort of go out and do it. But then it's your decision at the end of it. So when you took that, when they sort of pulled the trigger and they sort of pushed you towards it, where did you invest in your first property?
So the first property was an interesting one. I just did it in my hometown. I actually did a lot of investigations on the areas, and I settled in my hometown because it was just easier to sort of.
And if I may ask, hometown for you is
Darlington.
Okay.
Yeah, it's turned out to be quite a good place to invest after all, which is fortunate. But yeah, I did it in Darlington. I did the first property. I did it with no refurb, which is not recommended, but I did that purposefully because I wanted to learn about the purchase process. I didn't want to learn everything at the same time, so buy a beat up house, do it up, learn about the legals, learn about...
So you bought a buy to let kind of thing, so it was already ready.
Yeah, just to learn about letting, managing, and purchasing. It was discounted, so that was good. And then the second one
was that a proud moment in your life? Like you mentioned that you did not have a house, or neither did your family have a house, but then that day, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, that you bought your first property, it must have been, like...
it was a big moment. It was really sort of something I enjoyed. It's strange now because when I buy them now, it just like...
Did you celebrate it with your guitar or with your family?
At the time, actually, it would have been probably on my own with my guitar because I wasn't involving my family a lot in this. But yeah, the second one, I actually employed the trainings a lot. Buying it low, financing it creatively, spending on a refurb, getting it refinanced. I did all of that on the second one, which was more of a challenge.
How low did you go on your second property from the asking price?
I think I only got about $8,000 off, but the properties are only like 50 grand around here, so it was a big percentage.
That's not bad.
But overall, it was money in, money out deal, as they say. It worked out very well.
So you got it roughly about 18% below market, kind of.
Yeah. Well, it depends what you mean by market value, because I got it below the asking price, but the asking price was 15 grand below the potential done up value anyway. So it depends how you measure it. But overall, the refinance kicked out nearly all of the money I'd put in. In fact, it did kick out all of it once I got a couple of months' rent. So within the year, it was everything back out. So that was a good success story.
And that was how quick was that after the first property that you bought the second one?
I had a target back then to buy a property every 3 months.
Okay, so you did that in 3 months' time.
So every 3 months I was buying a new property back then. That was the first year just to sort of give myself a learning pace.
So first one was a buy-to-let ready-made property. You got that a bit below market value, got the income coming in straight away. And then you moved on to a property that you had to refurbish and all that kind of stuff. Was that a flat as well, or was that a house?
No, they were all houses. Shortly after that, I moved up on HMOs. And then I increased the frequency of the purchases as well. So, but it happens naturally when you get used to the purchasing, and so I took it slightly slow at first, and then increased.
And was it you that was finding the deals day in, day out, looking at Rightmove, Zoopla, all that kind of stuff? Like people normally ask that people say that I normally buy off market. Was that the case with you also, or no? You were looking at it on the market, and then
I was looking at everything. Anyway, you can buy a deal, and I just indiscriminately judged it upon the numbers. So if I got a good deal from an agent and the numbers were good, then I just judged it on the numbers. If I got a good deal
numbers
market,
meaning you were putting it on an Excel sheet and doing it that way?
So return on investment, I mean, they're only estimations, but you've got to have a formula that you use to judge deals. So I was using my own formula, and it worked well for me. And
can I ask what your formula is?
Just calculate return on investment. And it's very complex. I mean, you can go really.
And what sort of yield do you look at when you invest in a property that I want 5%, 8%, 10%? What sort of returns do you go?
We don't normally judge on yield up here. Because they're all similar. Like if you look in a certain area, the yield of a good investment property is very much, they're all similar to each other. There's lots of areas up here where the properties will be worth like say 50, 60 grand and the rent's like 400, 500. So that's in different areas. So the yield is always similar, unless you get HMO, which is a different ball game.
Yeah, I mean, then you sort of, although HMOs, I find them quite time consuming in terms of management and all that kind of stuff, but then the yield is quite good. I mean, you sort of double it up, right?
Yeah. So so regarding the sort of the journey from getting from the start to 7-figure, I mean, I didn't really ever think that was possible for me, but then I didn't really plan on it either. I was just getting in the groove of buying properties, building up the portfolio. The goal was more to get a certain level of cash flow from them, not really the total value.
So in the
But
first year, you went and bought 4 properties. Is that correct? Because you were
yeah,
buying 3 every.
that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And you say use the same sort of model, the Excel sheet, the formula model across the 4 properties at that point, and you still
Yeah.
use the same formula again till this day.
Yeah. It's evolved now. The detail of my knowledge on each figure is a lot broader now.
Okay.
So if you mentioned like a done value to me, I can think, well, I can go through a valuation process, market predictions. You can think about how accurate your estimate is.
Yep.
Because that's all really sort of important. Your figures, like, right, I'm buying a house at 40 grand, it's going to be worth 60 grand. How accurate that 60 is the difference between a good and a bad deal.
Absolutely.
So you can narrow down on your figures and try and do more research and say, how do I know it's going to be 60? What do I do if it isn't 60?
But then what sort of research would you use to analyze that, whether that is the right market value or that isn't the right market value?
Yeah.
What
That's a good question. And I work through that with a lot of students I've worked with who are starting out. And it's very important to give them a formula to have a good stab at that, and also have a plan B as well, because the valuers are different all the time.
Absolutely.
So one property we had was 15% different with 2 banks on the same day. So in the same condition, the same market time. So how could you predict a value when valuers are giving it differently themselves?
Wow.
So it's impossible to predict it is the answer. But what I do now, we've got a lot of good internal information in our lettings business and with our sourcing business.
Okay.
So we may have had 2 or 3 properties in that street already bought and refinanced, which will give us internal information on what the valuations were. So we can say to people, look, that's probably going to be...
This is how much we bought it in this time. This is how much I think is right now. This is how much it's worth.
Yeah, like we might have had one valued next door for 65 grand last month.
Yeah.
So we can tell people that's good information. Yours is probably going to be 65. However, this idea that you're going to predict a done value, this might throw like all of the education sort of calculations to the wind a little bit. But when you're doing an analysis on a property and saying, I'm going to buy this property on the basis it's worth £65,000, or that's in my area, in London, £650,000.
Yeah.
I'm going to base my projections on that value. You can't predict it, because valuers only take this last 6 months into account.
Exactly.
As their first primary, objective.
And right now they must be struggling,
mortgage.
right? Right now they must be struggling because those 6 months that were there before this.
Yeah, they probably won't exist now.
Like this right now. So I think, valuers are really struggling at this point, I guess, in terms of giving the right valuation and possibly giving the right guidelines to people who are sort of trying to buy their properties and all that kind of stuff. So right now it's a big question in my mind, being an agent myself, that how do you trust a valuator or a valuer who is basing his figures on the previous 6 months, when the previous 6 months were totally different to where we are today?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why it's investment is a risk. That's the key thing for people to remember. Investment is a risk. It's not some sort of guaranteed formula.
People used to believe that bricks and water, the right investment, all my life. But now, if bricks and water don't pay your bills and don't pay, the tenant in your bricks and water don't pay the rent, then that's dead investment.
Yeah, it depends, doesn't it? It depends. A good investment is one that makes money. So it could be gold, it could be stocks.
Property.
You can't generalize, really, can you?
Exactly.
You get a bad property or a good property. But yeah,
or even you could have a good property but bad times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You can't really look at that. So when did your portfolio turn into a 7-figure portfolio? From when you started. So 5 years ago you started on this journey. When did you reach the 7-figure portfolio?
It was roughly 3 years after I started, and it was sort of coincidental that it happened. And it's hard to get £1 million portfolio up here as well. And the property only worth like 50
65,
grand,
70, 50, yeah.
Mind you, we have bought a couple of large HMOs, which 150, 200,000. So that helps the overall gross valuations. But yeah, it took a while, but once you get the formula going, it gets there. You know, it builds up. And I think the key thing, like I said before, is the cash flow that you're getting, because ultimately the value of the portfolio only pays off when you get capital growth.
Absolutely.
The only time
Absolutely.
you're going to notice the difference with that.
And at that time, when you were investing in properties, did you give it to estate agents to manage it, to let it out for you, or were you doing it yourself the whole
So
time?
initially, my goal was to outsource whatever I could.
Okay.
I had a sort of, you know, outsourcing, delegating mindset. So I was just trying to find the properties, and I was passing them straight onto a builder and a letting agent who was running.
They were doing it for Okay.
Eventually, I started to get more involved. Just the more I got into property, the more knowledge I got. I started to form businesses that provided the services for the refurbs and the lettings.
So you started your lettings business on the side of that.
Yeah,
Was that in the first year, second year of you on this journey?
That was probably the third year.
So in the so after the third year, when you saw yourself with all this big massive portfolio, then you decided that okay, now it's time that I think rather than paying this all out, why don't I bring it back in again?
Yeah.
And have my team to do it, you know, where I'm paying maybe 8% to a letting agent to manage it. Maybe over here I'm just paying what, 3% because it's in-house.
That's the thought. Yeah, that's the plan. And obviously we were doing a source of business as well.
Okay.
So we've got clients again that we're referring to other companies, and we thought it would be a more economical plan. It's a more like synergistic plan as well to do it in-house. We can tailor the services to our aims.
Yep.
And ultimately we've got some sort of ecology, if you like, where we all work together. But yeah, that's been difficult. You know, that's been difficult to do.
How many people do you have in your team currently?
So I mean, it's difficult to say because we do change staff, you know, at times. Right now we're looking for a new lettings manager to add to the team, but we usually have about 10 or 11 sort of staff. That's obviously there's a lot of.
That's your lettings management. That's your builders. That's
project management.
The sourcing team also, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a whole mixture of people that are coming together and building your team and actually working for your dream to make your 7-figure portfolio.
Yeah.
Do you also advise them certain times when they come over to you and say, Paul, you know, I need some advice on getting on this property ladder. I want to do it also. Do you help them out with that sometimes?
Do you mean our own staff?
Yeah.
At times, yeah. At times, it's not that common. You know, not everybody wants to do it. You know, obviously, I wanted to do it. You meet people in the networks that want to do it, but it's not that everybody wants to do it, and they're not wrong to do that. It's each to their own sort of plan.
Absolutely.
One of the interesting things about doing the services internally is we notice there's a lot of conflicts between the services, and it gives you a good insight into why people have problems with investing. It gives you internal insights why these investors. You know,
the sourcer does not talk. I mean, contradicts with what the lettings side have to say. The sourcer might have contradictions with the builder, what he might have to say.
They've all got different incentives.
Exactly.
And it's natural. It's not that one person is ripping somebody off and lying. It's natural conflicts.
But then do you come with your mindset that I don't care what anyone says, whatever my team says, but this is what I'm doing. And if I like this property, then I'm going with it.
Yeah, and we have to be tough with who we choose to do things. Okay. We have to set the agenda, basically. So a bit of advice for people listening here. For example, you buy a property from a sourcing agent. They say the refurb's going to be 15 grand, but then the builder says, oh no, it's going to be 20. You know, that's not that one of them's lying. The sourcing agent is talking best case scenario. The builder is trying to make maximum profit. Yeah. So you've got to sort of set the agenda somewhere in there as the investor. What we try to do is try to marry the two as best we can as a company. But if you're the
sort of meet in the middle kind of thing.
Well, we try to get it as accurate as possible so that we're predicting what the builder's going to be happy with.
Okay.
But it's very difficult because builders might not be available next month for that particular deal, so we have to find a new one. That particular team might not agree. You know, it's a challenge. But what the investor will have to do is do research on what they think the building's going to be worth, irrespective of what the sourcing agent says. That's one side of it. And the other side of it is sometimes you need to keep working to find a builder that matches your budget as well. Because, you know, you ask a couple, they might be the expensive ones. If you keep digging or being resourceful, you can find certain ways of getting things done cheaper. So, for example, you might approach a builder, they say 25 grand. You say, hang on, I'm going to try and approach a builder that does labour only. I'm going to buy the materials with the LMPG account. And all of a sudden, you've got it for your target price.
LMPG account meaning?
So that's an account where you get discount on materials as a landlord.
Like a trader?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a bit more involved. You know, you're supplying the kitchen yourself. But that's the way that you can get a desired budget. So you can see how, what I mean by the sourcing agent or the builder's not wrong. There is different costs that can be achieved depending on
that just depends on your mindset, how much you want to delegate your work towards the builder, towards the sourcing agent. If you want to do certain works yourself, like you mentioned, you would go out and source the best kitchen, you know, or source the best furniture. You know, you can cut costs like that and marry the two, like you mentioned. So now that you're in this game, how many properties do you have currently on your portfolio?
So we have about 20, but when I say we've got JV partners that we work with. But it does vary because sometimes we trade as well.
Yep.
So we might sell.
But on a holding sort of strategy, how many properties do you hold at a given time? Let's say 20, something like that.
About 20, yeah.
20.
It's growing.
And then,
it's growing.
And then the other 10 that maybe you trade or you invest or whatever. Is the next stage for you property development, or you're already doing it?
Yeah, I mean, regarding the buy-to-let in HMO field, currently I own 20, but I've owned more and sold. We've probably done over 100 deals for other people as well, regarding
through the sourcing business.
So we've seen a lot of the transactions, and the next step for me, you know, would be naturally to do developments, conversions, and I have looked at a lot of them. I've worked on some with other people. Oftentimes we haven't done them because we haven't found a deal that sort of works better than 5 buy-to-lets, for example.
Okay.
So sometimes the area suits it and sometimes it doesn't.
But then maybe would you again need that trigger to sort of push you towards it?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you always need a new trigger, you know, because you'll do something, get complacent.
Because you mentioned because you know the buy-to-let trade, you know it so well. You've been doing it for the past 5 years. You're now comfortable. You don't want to possibly risk yourself into doing something that you don't know. But then, look, you know, people learn, and possibly right now in lockdown, you must have looked at all those things. So this is where I want to get to with you. Now that we are in lockdown, how has that affected you and your business in the last 2-3 months? How are you? I will ask about how you're adopting, but how have you faced problems and hardships within your business?
So it hasn't been as bad as what I thought so far, but we're not out of the woods yet. The lettings and the rent has been coming in mainly, you know, fine. And the government are helping people with rent. So tenants don't really have sort of a reason not to pay the rent. So that's been okay.
But there may be a backlog, you know, payments are coming in, but there might be a backlog because obviously the governments are doing as much as they want to speed up the paperwork. But the amount of people that are working there are not really up to the mark, sort of. So you might have you had a backlog of rents or no?
No, rent's been okay. One of the things we have found with regards to buying is we did get a few good deals agreed as well, because sellers are wanting to sell. So that was also good. And then up until recently, we had a bit of a mismatch because we were finding deals, but then the buyers, our sourcing clients, for example, because we can't buy them all. Actually, we might find 4 deals and we can only
buy 1 or 2.
Feasibly 1 or 2, so we have 2 available. And basically, we work with a lot of partners that we've worked with over the years who built their portfolio. We've built £1 million portfolios for other people with that business. They've been more hesitant at the moment to buy them, which is strange because they're better deals. than they would have been. So that's where it's affected the flow of businesses. People are sort of getting hesitant on buying because they're thinking, oh, it's a bad time. You know, should I buy? Should I buy? Maybe the prices will go down further. You know, should we wait? So that's where it's affected it. But I think at the moment with the bounce back loan scheme and stuff like that, money's a bit more fluid. You know, businesses have got a relief, if you like. So I think people are going to pick up on that more and get a bit more confident.
But then that might be only okay for, let's say, a month or 6 weeks, something like that. What if we are back into the same phase again, which we are in right now?
Yeah.
In 2 months, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? We're going according to what the government's saying and all that kind of stuff. But let's say in 2 months' time, we are back in this, and then money is tight again. So do you think they're looking out as they're holding themselves to buy properties because of that aspect, that we are still not certain if we are out of these deep waters?
Yeah, that's it. It's a bit like a chess game. People don't know what move to make. You know, they're trying to anticipate what's going to happen next. I mean, I'll give my view on it.
Please.
But it's not financial advice. If everybody's waiting to sort of buy properties thinking, oh, I'll wait until the property prices go down, then that suggests to me that at some point they're all going to rush in. And when
that's going to create a, you know, like a false boom kind of thing, false bubble.
Yeah. When people rush in together, it's like the prices just jump up like unrealistically.
Like they call it FOMOing in the trade market.
A bit like people trying to buy toilet roll through 4 weeks ago. Everybody rushed in and then they just went, and people were selling them for £15 in local shops.
I mean, I saw Amazon going crazy about it, but yeah, I mean, I remember because I'm based in Holland Park, and next door to me is a pharmacy. Now, normally a pharmacy would sell medicines, or you know, in today's day and age, pharmacies sell deodorants and perfumes and all that kind of stuff. You won't believe this guy started selling toilet rolls.
What price? Above market?
I mean, I didn't go in there, but we are in a serviced office, so I am on the first floor, and there's another company on the ground floor. So these guys literally rushed into that pharmacy to get toilet rolls, and when they went in there, the pharmacy guy said, "We're not selling them until it's mayhem."
Yeah.
You know, I was like, wow, you know, these guys are now dictating when they're going to sell when they're going to sell their toilet rolls. So that's a good piece of advice, as in, if everyone's going to wait and then go and create that false bubble, that might have a downside to the property
so you
market.
might wait, and then this is only one potential scenario.
Yeah.
People might wait thinking they're going to get a better deal and then actually get a worse deal. Or, you know, they could look back and think, I wish I bought them then, because it was actually quite low at that point.
Right.
Obviously, the other side is that maybe there would be a sort of drop in 6 months. Maybe this crisis will get worse, and maybe there'll be a big opportunity for people to buy a load of properties low.
But how can one know that?
No, that's true. So that is a possibility, and that would prove the first point I made there wrong, and people would say, no, it's good to wait. The only thing that I'm making a judgment on in my area is that in my area, I'm speaking about, every area is different.
Darlington.
Yeah, prices are about as low as they were 10 years ago now. And
at the moment.
Yeah, and that was after the recession.
Wow.
So they went down in 2009, 10.
Yeah.
And they haven't gone back up. So I'm thinking, how much lower can they go? Like, I know they can go lower, but there isn't, like, it's not like we're coming off a peak. You know,
do you think they can go any lower?
Well, I wouldn't think they'd go that much lower. So I would say that the possibility of waiting for a bargain is not necessarily that good anyway, because they can't go that much lower. You know, we buy properties at the moment for 35 grand. You know, how much lower could you buy a property for? You know, it's not. There's not that much room to maneuver. You know,
absolutely.
Bear in mind, if they went down to 25, everyone would be buying them. So the price would go straight back up. Because money is only worth a certain amount, isn't it? So once you get to 25
I mean,
grand,
although right now is a buyer's market, but if something like that were to happen, and let's say it does go down to what you're saying, 25 grand or something, then that would possibly create a seller's market, right?
yeah,
Because then they would just hold up and say, why should I get 25 when I can get 35 in a bidding war?
yeah, that's what's happening now. Actually, people are trying to offer low prices now. Anyway, they're thinking, oh, we've got a bit of a crisis. I'll offer 25, and the sellers are just saying no anyway. They're just saying, oh, I'll see this through. I'll just wait. Because why would you sell a house for that low if you?
Exactly. It doesn't make sense.
I mean,
Unless you're really, really desperate and you've got a big mortgage bill or you have to pay something off, you know.
Then you would still have a bidding war.
Yeah.
You know, the investors would. We had an auction recently, and we offered about 38,000, and nobody offered 39, and the seller didn't sell it, and he said, "I want 39." So, you know, and we had another auction where.
So why did you stop at 1K? Why didn't you go for that 39?
Because again, our spreadsheet dictated. So
Okay, all right.
We are still reviewing. We're still reviewing that deal and thinking, should we push it? But there's another reason for that one.
I was speaking to a lady on Friday, and her investment model, she looks at population.
Yeah.
She looks at population growth and how the population has been growing in that area in, let's say, the last 5 years, 10 years, and works according to that model rather than a spreadsheet model. And I was completely amazed. Like, people possibly were looking at this model decades ago. But there is someone out there still. There are people out there who are looking at the population growth and how this population is going to move forward in the next, 10 years, 20 years, whether it's going to be on a increase or decrease or whatever,
So should be assuming that like increased population increases demand, increases prices and rent.
Increases rent, exactly, all of that kind of stuff. So she looks at all of those things in terms of when investing.
That's a good idea. I mean, obviously the model we use is based on current conditions. So we're buying for now. So if nothing changes, this would work in our opinion. What she would be doing there is like a future capital growth style.
Yeah, I mean, at least keep it for 5 years, 10 years, and possibly sell on. Quick 2 questions that I have for you. How are you adopting yourself for the months or the years to come in the new normal that we're moving to?
Yeah. Now, it's difficult to predict because we don't know what's going to happen.
But how are you changing your business model kind of thing?
Yeah. So basically, if you think about the type of things that will work, obviously it would be sensible to buy them, and not others. So HMOs, it's historically good. At the moment, especially in the short term, it's shared living, isn't it? It's mixed.
It's all about shared living, co-living, shared living. Yep.
But with the virus, that could be not as good because people are going to be more hesitant about living with other people. It's just it could happen. It may not. We're still getting inquiries for rooms, so it's not evident. But if it keeps going on for a long time, it may have an effect. However, this is, as with all predictions, there's another side to that. What if people get less income because of the crisis, and then they have to resort to HMO living because it saves money? You could get an increase in demand.
So that would. I mean, on one side it has its con. Yeah. But then the pros are. Are you saying the pros are much better than the con? That
I suppose.
Do you think people are sort of in that mindset right now that I think they've had enough of 7 weeks of lockdown, virus being fed to them, and now they're like this morning I saw on the news, Canning Town tube station in London was packed with their tubes this morning, and that's after Boris Johnson gave his speech yesterday. So do you think that's going to have an effect on people like, what, to hell with this? Whatever happens, whatever has to happen will happen. I don't give a damn. I need a place to live. I can't afford because of the earnings that I'm getting, and this is what I can afford, and this is what I'm going to go for. So it would possibly have that increase on, again, the co-living, the shared living, the HMO living sort of model. So
I think these are the
Yeah.
decisions that the investors have to make. They have to take a look at the market and do a lot of research and try to figure out what they think is going to work. What we found during the crisis is the buy-to-lets have done well because people are sort of in the house. They're not going to go anywhere, when this is going on. So the occupancy is really high in them. And our occupancy in HMOs at the moment is low because, again, it's a shared living space.
People don't want to live together and all that.
A lot of people moved out of the HMOs when this came to be.
Yeah.
They're just split.
But do you think, let's say the HMOs that you have you had a consideration to possibly convert them into flats?
Yeah, that's a good point because everyone's got to have a second exit in their properties
Exactly.
just in case of emergency.
Yeah.
At the moment, the thing is, I suppose my point is, if it lasts a long time and we keep getting sort of second waves, HMO market for the near future will be affected. But it is only a temporary thing. When it's solved, then it won't be affected. If it goes quickly and sort of is solved, then the HMO effect would only be short term. And also, like I said, if it has a financial effect and a lot of people are on lower incomes, which is not guaranteed, but if it was, then HMO demand might go up. So the HMO effect would be as long as it lasts, but it would be a negative one in my opinion as long as it lasts. Buy-to-let is a positive effect at the moment, as far as what we're seeing. This is just internal information. People not wanting to move, and buy-to-lets, our hours are full, so we're seeing that as being okay. And I think again with developments, temporarily they would be negatively affected because you've got a lot of sites that are.
You mean the new developments that are coming out?
Yeah, because they've got a lot of sites not being worked upon, so their completion times are extended.
And the foreign investors are not coming in to buy them. So
holding costs are continuing.
Yep.
During these delays.
Yep.
So the temporary effect of the current crisis for me would be on developments and sort of shared living. Flats and standard single let houses, I think, are okay in the short term.
Sure.
And then, it depends how long it lasts as to how long that is a problem. But we're still looking to buy all types
properties.
Of
anywhere in the UK or just your area?
Just in our area. Okay. But there's always the question, I would just keep them things in mind when I was buying. So I wouldn't go out and buy sort of 5 HMOs expecting to have good results in the next year. I may be buying.
Just take it one at a time, and then
or just keep it in mind with plan B, or keep or diversify. Maybe buy 2 HMOs and 3 buy-to-lets, just in case it goes either way. That's what's helped us at the moment. We've got a diversified portfolio, so where we've got voids, it's okay.
Those are sort of filling up the voids.
We've got other places which do more.
One final question that I have for you. We are at the end of our live session because Instagram only gives an hour's worth of live session.
Yeah.
Final piece of advice to someone who is at that T-junction right now and has that property investment mindset that, yes, I want to get into property, but what do I do? What would you advise them in a few words?
So, I would say learn as much as you can. And for me, I would suggest to seek advice, whether it be a course or a mentor. And don't be shy to pay for that if that's what it takes. And that would be it. Because once you do that, you're committed. And the premise of your question was that they want to get into property. So if they've already decided that, then they need to do something that makes them do it. And if they're just going solo and have no network and they're trying to do it themselves, they may always be held back by the lack of confidence and knowledge.
If someone were to call you up today seeing this video, would you be open to advising them on how to go about doing it and stuff?
Yeah, certainly. That's what we do as part of our business. Help people build their own portfolios. But you can obviously join networks without cost. You can go to local networks. You may have friends, or you may know an estate agent.
Yep. Go
and seek advice from them.
Yep.
See how that goes. You may actually find that does the trick for you.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, you want to monitor yourself on your own results. So if it doesn't get you to get results, then you may have to dig deeper and say, maybe I need to go and do a course or get a mentor or something like that.
Yep.
Because that, for me, makes you committed, and it gives you something to lose, if you like.
So it's always good to invest in what you want to do so that
Yeah.
you are committed to it. Great
Yeah.
piece of I'll keep that in my mind. But Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on board. You know, thank you so much for taking us through your journey, taking me through how you started into this property business, being into a medical background, a musician background, and now building your own and other people's seven-figure property portfolios. It's been a pleasure and amazing gain of knowledge from you, Paul. So thank you so much for today, and have
Thank
a
you.
great day ahead, week ahead, and all the best for your future endeavors.
You
And
too.
I'm
Thanks
sure
for the
we'll
invite.
speak on Instagram. You know, we'll keep on speaking. So anytime you're looking for property advice in London, do shout out.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Thanks for the invite. It's been a pleasure.
Not a problem. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
See you. Bye bye. Well, that was Paul Hannafin, who joined us, giving us the advice that people need in terms of today, not only today, but in terms of property investment and how to go about building your portfolio. So if you've not had a full listen to this live session, do start it again. It's going to be live on my profile for the next 24 hours. So do have a look. But I've got two more live sessions today. Let's see how it goes. One is really exciting with a realtor all the way from Texas. So that should be good. Any questions regarding properties, do DM me. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great week ahead. Bye-bye.